Thank you. Welcome to the Wareham Conservation Commission meeting of October 16th, 2019. Roll call, please, Mr. Baptiste.
All right, members present, Alyssa Hurd, Mary Taggett, myself, Ken Baptiste, Rob Lassen, Chair Sandy Slavin, and David Pichette, the agent.
Thank you. Before we go into the hearings, 2 weeks ago, we lost a member that had been with us for quite a while. Joe Liggett passed away, and I can tell you he fought for every breath. He hung on and hung on. Joe had been involved with the conservation. He was on community preservation. He was on open space with us, and he did a tremendous amount of work out at the Westgate property. Please, before we continue, I'd like to take a moment to thank Joe for his time. Thank you.
Moment of silence, please.
Thank you. Continued public hearings. Ken Nelligan has asked for a continuation until
11:20.
11:20.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Continued until 11:20. Next hearing is South Coast Hospital Group. Finally. Please come forward and identify yourselves. I have to dust this one off. Please come forward and identify yourself so we can put you on the record.
Good evening, Madam Chair. For the record, Christian Fallon, Principal Engineer and President of Fallon Corp. Here tonight representing South Coast Health. Also here tonight is Helio Rosa, representative with South Coast Health. It certainly has been a while since we've been here. We've been down a long road.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen. Can Mr. Pichette will speak to the project, and
Sure.
then we will ask you to respond. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
The project site is at 43 High Street, and this project involves the construction of an addition to the Toby Hospital complex, along with associated utilities, parking lot reconstruction, stormwater structures, and other improvements. And this project site is within a coastal flood zone. We've been continuing this hearing because there's been a review by the town's engineer. Some modifications were requested to the plan. We were also having the municipal maintenance director look at this project in terms of how it would tie into the town's stormwater system. The engineer has made the changes as recommended by the town engineer, and we do have a letter in our mail packet from Charlie Rowley, who has stated he's now satisfied with all the corrections with the project. And we also did get a comment from Dave Menard, the municipal maintenance director, who also stated he is okay with the project as presented on the revised plan. So we do have a DEP number. And with these recommendations from those entities, I would recommend the approval of the project.
Thank you. Do we have a current plan? Mine is dated
I know there's an updated
July
version.
30th, 2018.
Yeah, what's the most current revision date?
The most current date should have a revision of 9/20.
9/20/19.
Yes.
Can you just turn that a little bit this way, just a little?
Okay. Thank you. So you would see if we can find it? You have it?
Thank you.
I don't have it.
Okay. Your turn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, for the record, Christian Fallon, Principal Engineer and President of Fallon Corp. We first presented this project back in August of 2018. And the main reason for the continuance is we didn't want to close the hearing, just in case there were plan changes that were needed to be done so that we wouldn't have to come back in front of the board and amend the order of conditions. Since then, we did meet with the town consultant, Charles Rowley. We've done several changes, mostly in regards to the stormwater design, which have all been met. If you take a look at the presentation plan, you'll see the areas in blue there. That's all subsurface recharge systems, which the water will be recharged into the ground. Also, throughout the system there's water quality structures. Overall, it's a significant improvement to what was there prior to this new development. The existing conditions had all of the stormwater basically discharging into Main Street. So we reduced that by 75%. We did meet with DPW Superintendent Dave Menard, and he also agreed with our plans and approved the development as it's presented. It's important to note that the majority of the work is actually outside of conservation jurisdiction, although it leads within the drainage system, gets tied into that system. So that's why it was important for us to take a look at the stormwater design and make sure that it meets DEP stormwater requirements, which it certainly has. As far as the changes since we originally presented it back in August, it really hasn't been much. Like I said, it's mostly us not wanting to close the hearing just in case we did have to make changes. We also did meet with the fire department as well. Certainly that was an issue with safety, so we did address all their comments as well. What mainly held the project up was the historic significance of the homestead. We had to get through that hurdle. Right after that, we worked with the architect, we finalized the plans, and we are now here looking to move forward. Obviously, winter's coming here, so we're looking to get the shovel into the ground as soon as possible. We feel that the plans do meet all the town's requirements and state requirements as well. And we're looking for this board to approve the plans tonight. I'll be certainly glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. We would like to have a copy of your 9/2019 plan.
We did FedEx 2 copies. Dave, did you not get the 2 copies?
I did not get those.
Yeah.
I don't know if they got delivered to another office by mistake possibly,
Interesting,
but I
yeah.
have not seen those. But if
probably
they're
still
in the
in the
works,
mailroom.
then
Yeah, I know we had 2 hard copies delivered. Certainly, I have one here tonight. I'll be glad to leave, and we can drop off another set tomorrow. Also, electronically, we send the PDFs out.
Questions on the board?
None.
I remember way back when, we were very concerned the amount of pervious surface that was going on. That's still there, right? You're going to do a tremendous amount of hardscape?
This is great architecture rendering. Certainly, there's the landscape features in this design. We certainly kept the historic significance of the homestead and try to tie in a bunch of the landscape features into the new design as well. As you can see from this plan, this is an actual rendering of what it's going to look like. We certainly definitely made some changes from the original. Originally, we had a typical ready rock retaining walls. That has all been changed to stone veneer to match the stone wall out front. The landscaping along the retaining walls as well, the trellis, they're certainly gonna dress it up quite a bit. So the landscape in itself is certainly a significant improvement to what lies there
Can you flip it
now.
to the other side?
Sure.
And can you point out where the 200-foot line is from the riverfront that we are responsible for?
The only thing that lies within your jurisdiction is actually a flood zone. Just follow it along with my
Yep.
finger here. So it comes in, then it actually comes down into the property here, just along the bottom. So it's basically a portion of this drive access here and a portion here. That's pretty much it. Everything from this point further
Is us, yes, not us.
is
Now-
zoned.
In the original plan, I got the impression the existing stone wall would be removed. Has that now been retained?
Yeah, the existing stone wall is right along the property line, so that is gonna remain.
So, and you'll step up behind it to another retaining wall where you put the driveway.
Exactly, this is the ambulance access here, so this has to, the reason why we're starting here is it's a long
Yep.
drive all the way up. Currently, that drive shoots straight up, very steep, so we took that steep slope out by starting here and driving up slowly into a nice flat level area, which is a lot safer and
So
able for the ambulances to turn around.
you will be blocking off the driveway that's now coming off of Lower Main Street.
This
Will-
drive will
yes.
no longer be here.
Will you be using the same type of stone to match the existing stone wall when you only that's within us. I just want to know what type of,
Yeah, this whole stone wall is gonna remain at the bottom.
Okay.
And then we'll have an infill area which will match,
okay.
exactly.
And everybody's fine with the stormwater drain and everything else like that. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak for or against this project? Seeing none. Somebody
I move to
close?
close the hearing.
I
That's
have a
it.
motion to close the hearing. I have a second. All in favor, the hearing is closed. What is your wish, please?
Motion to grant as revised plan
Dated 9/20/19.
dated 9/20/19.
I have a motion. I heard a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Now, the order conditions, low nitrogen on all that grass. Low nitrogen, slow releasing on all the grass that you're going to be putting, that we can control anyway.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you do anything, see Mr. Pichette for the final approval documents. Thank you.
You want this set? You want me just to drop off too?
Yeah, if we can get those two sets. If you said you already mailed them, then they may be in the town hall already, so,
Probably. If not,
Well, Monday,
can't deliver them tomorrow.
okay,
That's not a big deal.
thank you.
well, Buzzards Bay Coalition, is that a continuance?
Yes, that's a continuance to November 6th.
Okay, Buzzards Bay Coalition has asked for a continuance until 11/6. I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. It's continued until 11/6. Oh, I'm a minute away. Homestead Realty Trust has asked for a continuance until 11/6.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ask if anybody's
Opposed?
here for
Oh,
that.
was anybody here for Homestead Realty or Buzzards Bay Coalition and the floats? Should have asked, I didn't. I'm sorry. Homestead Realty is continued until 11/6. We can now start our hearings.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw. Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, October 16, 2019, at 7:15 p.m., on the request for determination of applicability for Katie Voci, care of Stenbeck and Taylor, Inc., 844 Webster Street, Marshfield, Massachusetts, 02050, to replace a failed sewage system with a Title V sewage system located on Assessment Map 1, Lot 730, 6 Storer Street, Onset, Mass.
Thank you. Please identify yourself for the record.
For the record, I'm Terry McGovern from Stenbeck and Taylor, representing Ms. Voci.
Okay, Terry, do we have the green cards?
Yes.
Yes, we have the green cards. So Terry, Mr. Pichette will speak to the project.
The project site is at 6 Storer Street in Onset, and this project involves a septic system upgrade within a coastal flood zone. This is an after-the-fact filing for work that was done at this site to replace the septic system within flood zone AE elevation 14. The existing system was replaced with a new Title V system. The project is not in the buffer zone to any other resource areas. No significant grade changes were made, so I would recommend the issuance of a negative determination number 2 for the project.
Terry, anything you'd like to add?
I'll simply offer a mea culpa, if you will.
I'm going to fall on that sword, yes.
Well, we relied on the section of the bylaws that speak to the 150-foot setback from wetlands, and we had mapped it out. I had actually located the wetlands out beyond Lope's Playground and over the hill. I'm actually familiar with the area from having done several years of Little League coaching and been on Lope's Field a number of times. We submitted the plan to Board of Health and thought if there was a question, it would come up there being in the flood zone. And we were told, you were all set, pick up the permit. Without any further guidance, we thought we were all set. So a mea culpa for that. We weren't altering anything. We weren't proposing any grade changes. The line actually straddles pretty much through the middle of the system. That's about all I can add to it. And it's something we do as a matter of course in every town we work in. Had we known that would be the case, we would have been here a month ago presenting the project.
Okay. Any questions on the board? No. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak for or against this project? Seeing none?
Close the meeting.
I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed.
Motion to grant standard
-2.
-2.
I have a motion to grant -2.
Second.
Second, all opposed, abstained. Okay. You have it. See, Mr. Bichette, I can't say that, you've already done all the work.
Well, a thank you to Mr. Bichette for his participation in it and his guidance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. On Wednesday, October 16, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Robert Cumlin, care of Govan Building and Contracting in 18 Tyler Ave, East Wareham, 02538, to dig footings, extend existing deck, and build a 3-season room located on Assessor's Map 134, Lot 15, 11 Avenue A, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Please identify yourselves for the record.
Hi, Donna Govin, Govin Building and Contracting.
Darrell Garvin, Garvin Building and Contracting.
Okay, we have a green card?
Yes.
Then Mr. Bichette will speak to the project, but wait a minute. I can't find my people.
Another one.
No. Okay, never mind, go.
This project is at 11 Avenue A in the Oakdale area, and the project involves the construction of a sunroom addition within a coastal flood zone. A 12 by 12 sunroom addition is to be proposed on an existing deck, which is also going to be expanded by a couple of feet to accommodate the sunroom addition. This would be supported on sonotube footings. The project is not within the buffer zone to any other resource areas. There's no grade changes proposed for this project. So I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 2.
Is there anything you'd like to add? Questions on the board?
No question.
No? Anybody in the audience would like to speak for or against this project?
Motion to close.
Thank you. I have a motion to close.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, hearing is closed.
Motion to grant. -2.
Second.
I have a motion for a -2. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, it's passed. So see Mr. Bichette before you do the work. Thank you. Thank you.
You too.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, October 16, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Clifford Scott, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Mass. 0302571, to remove an existing float and replace with a new wood float located on Assessor's Map 20, Lot 2, 25 Over Jordan Road, Wareham, Mass.
I found my missing one. It was in the Scott folder. Oh, I hate that when it happens. Wait a second. Here, you can have that one. Okay. Please identify yourself for the record.
Brian Grady with GAF Engineering.
Thank you. Mr. Burchett will speak to the project.
The project site is at 25 Over Jordan Road, and the project involves the replacement of an existing float within land containing shellfish, land under the ocean, and within a coastal flood zone. An existing 8 by 10 foot float is to be removed and replaced with a new float that's several square feet larger than the original, approximately 5 to 10 square feet larger. There would be no alteration to the pilings needed for the project. The new float would simply be attached to the existing pilings. The new float would have float stops installed to keep the bottom of the float at least 30 inches off the bottom substrate. And chains are proposed to be used as the float stops. So I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 2, with the condition that the float stops be maintained as a continuing condition.
Brian, anything to add?
No, nothing.
Questions on the board?
No. No question.
No.
Anybody in the audience would like to speak for or against this project? Seeing none,
Motion to close.
I have a motion to close. I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. The hearing is closed.
Motion for a -2 with the stipulation that the float stop chains be maintained.
Second.
I have a motion. I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Please see Mr. Bichette before you start the paper,
Thank you.
before you start, so he can do the paperwork for you.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. Public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, October 16, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. on the notice of intent for Troy E. Larson and Timothy Y. Stedman, care of GAF Engineering, Inc., 266 Main Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02571, to install a concrete block paver patio, remove concrete block planters, and install a roof drain, dry well, located on Assessor's Map 59, lots 1041 and W253, 20 13th Street, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. I have one.
Yeah, got an extra one. Got a couple extra ones.
Yeah, I've got one, they've got one. So, yeah, we're all set. All right,
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Bob Rogers with GAF Engineering. With me this evening is Troy Larson.
thank you. Troy, I met your father, George, this morning.
Ah.
And your little dog, cute dog.
Yeah.
Mr. Bichette will read to the project.
This project site is at 20 13th Ave in the Weeannick Shores area. And this filing is in response to an enforcement order that was issued for unpermitted work that was going on at the site that involved the removal of an existing concrete patio and the installation of a new paver patio and concrete block planters along the top of the coastal bank and within a coastal flood zone. The concrete patio was removed and the new patio and concrete block planters were being installed. A cease and desist order was issued and the work was stopped. This notice of intent is being submitted to approve the replacement of the patio and to remove the concrete block planters, which were beyond the extent of the original concrete patio. Also proposed is to install a dry well to handle runoff from the structure. I had spoken to the engineer and recommended that this be relocated further from the resource area so that no additional clearing of vegetation would be needed to put that in. In the process of redoing the patio, the supports for the deck were also redone, and these may not be in compliance with the building code, so the applicant should also contact the building inspector to make sure that these footings would be okay relative to the building code. The block planters to be removed have a concrete footing that should also be removed. The disturbed slope is proposed to be planted with native vegetation, and so we should get some information about what specifically is going to be planted there. Hay bales and silt fence would be used for the erosion control. We do have a DEP file number for the project. So the commission may want to continue to get revised plans, or if the commission chooses to approve the project with conditions, then I would recommend the condition for the dry well location to be reviewed and approved by the conservation agent prior to it being installed, and to get the planting scheme for the disturbed slope area that's going to be replanted.
I can't write fast enough.
You need a secretary.
Slowing down.
Yes, I'm slowing down. Alan says that all the time. Bob, your turn, please.
Sure, Madam Chair. So the two sets of pictures that I handed out, the ones that show the koi pond and the little wooden deck, those were provided by Mr. Larson this evening. So those were photos of the backyard just off the pre-existing concrete pad before any work was initiated. They just purchased this lot last September. And then the other set of pictures, the 5 pages of double pictures, that's what we received right at the deadline, at the filing deadline. And these were taken from the contractor. And so there's kind of an important reference point to note. If you're looking at the first photo, there's a white vinyl fence that's also on the plan. So, that's one of the reasons why we're calling to remove the block planters, is because that's work that's clearly gone beyond where the prior extent of clearing is, if you will. So we have no issue at all with, I think we can slide the roof drain infiltration unit further away from the coastal bank, but we may want to do something a little bit different. So, I mean, I think I'd like to do just a little bit of work with the client and Mr. Pichette in order to bring back a plan that Mr. Larson and his contractor know exactly what needs to be done, and also run it by Mr. Pichette so that we can, take care of the plantings that are going to replace the block planter. And I think we should also add the note to remove the footing for the planter, which we didn't know was there until we received the photographs. Acceptable. So we would agree to a continuance this evening. And of course, we would accept any further guidance from the commission while we have that opportunity.
Okay. Can you tell me who the contractor is, please?
It was Brad Silva Landscaping, or Brad Silva is the company.
Is he local?
I believe he's out of Marion.
And he doesn't know the bylaws, the wetland bylaws?
I do not know what he does not know.
Oh, maybe he would ask the question, do you have a permit? But, okay. Questions on the board? We are going to continue.
Yeah,
My first one.
Yeah.
no doubt.
I have a question. On the plans, there's this, I'm not sure what it is. It's a rectangular thing surrounded by double-washed stones.
That's the
Oh,
driveway.
so, yeah, that's the underground Cultec unit for the roof infiltration.
You're going to have to disturb the soil on top of it in order to put it there, right?
Correct.
Okay. And
Yeah.
where was the water garden?
Well, there was just a little koi pond. It
Well,
was, if
Yeah.
you're looking at those pictures, I think it was just to the,
Was it up on the patio? On the?
No.
it was
It extended beyond.
off the end of the concrete. And
Okay.
one of the pictures, you could see.
Between the concrete and the coastal bank?
Yes.
Correct. Yeah,
I now see it upside down on the other side of the coastal bank.
you do.
Yes.
Okay, I hadn't been to the site
I don't-
myself, but certainly anything that needs to be cleaned up in the resource area should certainly be agreed to and done by Mr. Larson and whichever contractor.
Okay, anything else from the board on questions?
I had a question on, I believe there was a silt fence that was sort of tried to be put in. It
Correct.
wasn't actually, it sort of looked like everything could just drain right under it.
That was put up by the contractor.
And we're going to be adding hay bales to that?
Yes, we will.
Yes.
Yes, that's detailed on our plan.
Okay. But you're right, I mean, the silk fence could easily, it didn't go to the ground, or wasn't, never mind, that's another issue. So, anybody here that wanted to speak to or for this project, for or against this project? I'm seeing none. Any other questions? If not, I'll take a motion to continue until next, November
moved.
6th?
That's fine.
Okay, I have a motion
So
to
moved to
continue to
continue to
11/6. I
November.
have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, we are continued until 11/6.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, October 16th at 2019 at 7:15 p.m. on the notice of intent for Marlene and Robert Aaron, care of Lockwood Architects, P.O. Box 95, Onset, Mass., to construct a garage/carport addition to an existing dwelling located on Assessor's Map 4, Lot G, 32 Robinwood Road, Onset, Mass.
Just need one. And we can share this, and this is for the prior hearing.
Okay.
Thank you. I see the green cards, and please identify yourself for the record.
Bill Lockwood, Lockwood of Architects, representing the Aarons.
Thank you. Mr. Bichette will read to the project.
The site is at 32 Robinwood Road, and the project involves the construction of a carport addition, garage, and paving, and this is in the buffer zone to a coastal bank and also within a coastal flood zone. A 24 by 24-foot carport and a 24 by 28-foot garage are proposed to be attached to the existing dwelling, and this work would be approximately 53 feet from the top of the coastal bank and also in flood zone AE elevation 16. The area where the work is proposed is existing landscaped yard area. It's a relatively flat area. There is some new paving proposed in front of the proposed garage, and they are proposing a stone drainage trench along the edge of the garage and the paved area to handle runoff from these features. The existing septic pipe would have to be relocated to accommodate the new structures, but this would just tie back into the existing septic system. Hay bales and silt fence would be installed between the proposed work and the resource area. We do have a DEP file number for this project, so I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions.
Thank you. Bill, is there anything you'd like to add?
Not what he said.
Questions on the board?
None. Thank you.
No?
No?
Any questions? No. Seeing no more questions for us, anybody in the audience would like to speak for or against this project? I'm seeing none. Somebody,
Close the hearing.
I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained. The hearing is closed.
Move to grant.
I have a motion to grant with standard order of conditions.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. It is granted. Please see Mr. Pichette before you start the work. I want to go down there, but the gate was locked.
I'll tell you the code one day,
Okay, thank you.
but not in open court here.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, October 16, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. on the notice of intent for William Evans, Big Block Trust, care of Webby Engineering, Inc., 180 County Road, Plimpton, Mass. 02367, to construct a garage on the Assessor's Map 38, lots 378 and 379, 17 and 19, Parkwood Drive, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. The applicant has asked for a continuance until 11/6. Is there anybody here for this particular project? I'll take a motion to continue.
So moved.
I have that motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. We're continued until November 6.
All right, so we have another notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, on Wednesday, October 16, 2019, at 7:15 p.m. on the notice of intent for Jeffrey and Kimberly Hoban, care of Foresight Engineering, 518 County Road, West Wareham, Mass. 02576, to upgrade a septic system located on Assessor's Map 90, Lot A, 32 Galt Road, West Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Please identify yourself for the record.
Yes, good evening, Darren Michaelis from Foresight Engineering.
Okay. Did I see green cards?
Yep.
Okey dokey. Mr. Bichette will speak to the project.
This project site is at 32 Galt Road, and this project involves upgrading a septic system in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. An existing septic system is to be replaced with a new Title V septic system. And again, this is in the buffer zone to wetland, approximately 85 feet from the edge of the wetland. There's really no grade changes proposed with the project. And we did get a DEP file number for this project as well. So I would recommend the approval of the project with the standard conditions.
Darren, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, ma'am.
Questions on the board?
I'm wondering about these new systems. Are they required to have a backup generator? What happens if you lose power?
They'll function as a gravity system at that
Oh, they
point.
will?
Yeah,
Okay.
you'll have 24 hours storage in the first tank, and then you'll have 48 hours storage in the second tank. So you have 3 days basically before you have to pump the system out.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody in the audience would like to speak for or against this project? I'm seeing none. I have a motion to close.
Yep, so moved.
I had the motion. I heard a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. The hearing is closed.
Motion to grant standard conditions.
I have a motion to grant with the standard conditions.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. It's passed. Please see Mr. Bichette before you start the work.
Will do. Have a good night.
Night.
Yeah.
Yes, me.
Are you keeping this? Or you have one?
I have one. This was passed. Yeah. Okay, we are now done with current hearings. On to continued public hearings. Scott Blagden.
Yes.
Okey dokey, come forward and identify yourselves, please.
Brian Grady with GAF Engineering.
John Wolosowski, for Preservation Lane.
Wallace Fergon,
Thank you.
subcommittee member.
Mr. Bichette will read the project.
Down.
Okay.
You need more plans?
No, I don't think so.
Wrote them down there.
Want to see the plans? I have a copy here. Remember this one? Everybody? Yep, okay. Mr. Bichette will read.
This site is Lot 1000A off Preservation Lane in Cremisa Road. The project involves expanding an existing pier by adding additional floats and float piles to an existing structure within land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, and within a coastal flood zone. The site is also within the estimated habitat of rare and endangered species. Comments were received from Division of Marine Fisheries on this project, who had requested that an eelgrass survey be done for the project. The applicant did have that done, and we have a report from their consultant on this, and they did find that eelgrass was present at the site, actually inland of where the existing float is. but the proposed work would still be in a certain distance of the eelgrass. I spoke to the engineer about this, and he had mentioned potentially revisions to the plan. So I would let him speak to that at this point, since I haven't seen any revised plans yet.
Yeah, I haven't revised any plans. I would like to continue the discussion with you folks before we get to a revised plan. There's a couple issues I think outstanding. There's the 300 square foot of coverage for the floats, and then there's the new information relative to the eelgrass study. So Environmental Consulting and Restoration did the study. They used an underwater camera to go back and forth through the area. They did find a narrow band of eelgrass. As Dave mentioned, it's inland of the floats. So it goes from about a depth of -4 to -1.5 in the depth. So it doesn't come out beyond the first float. Speaking with Brad regarding that, he thinks it's just a function of the depth of the water, and he noticed that as he did kind of get out beyond that depth, the river got a little more turbid. The water wasn't as clear, you're getting out into the depths. So that was his feeling as to why the eelgrass is where it is. You also have in your bylaw a 50-foot setback to eelgrass areas. Where this is inland of the pier, any expansion outward would not be getting any closer to the pier. We're looking to replace the existing floats, that first set of floats, pretty much in the footprint of the float that currently exists. And any expansion would be beyond that. So we're not encroaching any closer to the eelgrass that's there. We have a 25-foot gangway. We could go with a 30-foot gangway to get a couple of more feet to bring that out. The second set of floats that we're proposing is water depths at mean low. There's 7 feet of water at mean low. And the inland floats, there's at least 4, upwards of 5 feet of water at mean low. So one of the other questions I asked Brad was, as he was cameraing around, did he see any prop scars or prop dredging? He didn't notice any of those, and I'm not surprised to hear that because the water depths are quite adequate, 4 feet, 4 to 5 feet at mean low at its shallowest. So I guess I'm looking for input as far as are these acceptable? Would you like to see maybe a change to go to a longer gangway to get a few more feet out into the river away from that eelgrass sanction area? Or any other comments you have, and then we'd be happy to make revisions to the plan.
Questions on the board?
You went out 5 more feet. Does that infringe in any way upon the right-of-way?
No, that's a pretty wide channel at that point. There's no marked channel, no.
I have a question, and that is this beach area used for swimming by people who are coming down to the boats? In other words, are kids going to be swimming there? We have now the float, and then you have the eelgrass closer to shore.
The surrounding area is a mixture of sand and mud. In the 7 years that we've been there really's been no one that's gone swimming in the area, and it's difficult to get into water without getting muddy, so I don't anticipate that ever being an issue with anybody, so.
Anything else? The existing plan is to have 448 square feet of dock area? Is that right, versus our 300?
Right.
Right, and as we've mentioned before, there are 6 members of this pier association, and we're going to utilize this shared float system. So that works out to 75 square feet per
person?
Per person.
Per family?
Per family.
Comments on the board? They've been before us before.
The only other comment I would just bring up to the board and to the applicant is that the bylaw talks about no new projects within 50 feet of eelgrass. It doesn't say whether it's inland, outside of eelgrass or anything of that nature. It just specifically says, no new projects within 50 feet of eelgrass bed. So I just want to bring that up, because now that we've had this study done, and it's found that there's eelgrass there, that doesn't fall in line with our bylaw. When this pier was originally built, back however long ago it was, I'm not sure that we had this bylaw in place. But we do now, and so it's an issue, and that's why these eelgrass studies are required to be done. So anyway, just need to bring that to the board's attention.
If we move the pier out, what are you suggesting, 5 more feet?
We could go with a 30-foot gangway. It's 25 now.
Would that adding more pylons?
No, it wouldn't increase the number of piles, no.
How many are going in?
2 are being relocated and 4 new for the fingers.
A fair amount of turbulence for the eelgrass. I guess that's why, I realize the eelgrass is diminishing, right? Cape Cod.
Totally.
So by extending it out another 5 feet because of extended the plank, how far away will it make it from the eelgrass if that is done?
Well, as Dave mentioned, there will be new activities within that 50 feet, but we are going out further beyond the existing footprint of a licensed structure.
So your new pylons will be in the middle of the eelgrass?
No, there'll be no activities
Within the eelgrass?
within the eelgrass area.
The work has gone beyond them out into the river?
It'll just be within the 50 foot that they're not supposed to do any work within 50 foot of the eelgrass, so that's the issue.
So I wonder if the eelgrass existed, whether bylaw existed or not, whether or not the eelgrass existed when they first put their pier in there.
In the report that Environmental Consulting prepared, he has the Mass GIS data layer for eelgrass, and it hasn't been mapped for eelgrass since 2006. It's been absent from any updates on the eelgrass layer since that time frame. So whether it's been there or not, I can't speak to that. I know Mr. Priolo, there was a study done just around the corner for his proposed pier, and it was a similar situation. My understanding, the eelgrass was kind of in the shallows and disappeared when it got out into the deeper waters.
One of the concerns we had at a prior meeting was the possibility of these moorings being removing the moorings and becoming boats on the particular dock, correct? Will the moorings be removed? Are those moorings owned by these homeowners?
I know we had that discussion.
I can't remember it. We had it.
No, I think the committee believes that if it's the recommendation of this committee to remove the moorings and have just the slips, that is certainly acceptable.
Who
to-
owns the moorings?
The same people who
Will be using the dock.
the slips, yeah.
And Mr. Buckminster seemed to have no issue with the extension of this dock into the Weebiantic River? Did I see that note in here someplace?
Yes.
So he supported the project? Well, is there anybody here who'd like to speak for or against this project? Would the recommendation be that we have them remove the moorings?
Yes.
And replace, and use the docks only as opposed to? Okay. Anybody, no one else wants to speak for it? So if we're comfortable,
Well, so they have to come back with a revised plan for whatever they're gonna do. So
well,
they're-
that's right too. We don't have a revised plan.
No, so there, he's just asking the board more or less what
Discussion.
your thoughts are.
Did you get a hint as to what our thoughts were?
I believe I did. The revised plan, I'll indicate the limits of the eelgrass per the study. The 30-foot gangway, we can put a note on there to remove the moorings. Am I missing anything?
The moorings are not under our jurisdiction there. their harbor master, right?
Yeah,
So
but
they
we
could be
can
put
sort of
back
ask.
at any time in the
They
future.
could very well be put back at any time. That would be up to Gary to say that, like,
Have
but
nothing
if
to
the,
do with us.
if the existing owners are willing to remove them, eelgrass grows.
Yeah, it moves, so it migrates, doesn't it?
Well, it
Like any
moves over
other
time. It,
rooted system.
like any vegetation, it can expand or grow over the years, or decline, depending on the conditions of the area.
There is a good,
Okay, it's just
where it was.
popped up in my mind for some reason.
Well, I'm getting the impression that the eelgrass is limited to a more softer flowing, shallower water. Am I getting that? The further offshore you get into deeper water with more of a tide current, they're not finding evidence of eelgrass.
Correct, that's my understanding. And Brad also mentioned to me that he didn't see any shoots or any evidence of immature eelgrass beyond those limits. So it's fairly abrupt line at that depth. And so, as you said, it's depth, turbidity, once you get beyond that depth.
Okay? Any other comments we can set Brad away with? If not, I will ask for a motion to continue until November 6th. Is that good enough for you?
That's acceptable, yes.
I need a motion.
Continue until November 6th.
If I may have one question, the one thing that I was unclear on, there was a discussion about the extension of the existing gangway. Is that a recommendation of the board, or is that necessary?
I think we're looking at going to a 30-foot plank,
Okay?
to go further out into the water,
Yep, no
a little
problem.
further away from the eelgrass.
That would seem favorable from this side of the bench. You know,
Okay.
farther from the eelgrass.
So I had a motion, I heard a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Did I miss anything? All right. We're done with our hearings and our continued hearings. We have a extension request for Bay Trust, 54 Winship Ave. Here's that one. We'll share.
That's okay.
So, Mr. Burchett will read the request. We share.
You keep it down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, please identify yourself so we can put you on the record.
Robert Reed.
Dudley Darling, trustee for the Bay Trust.
Okay. Mr. Burchett, your turn.
Okay. This site is at 54 Winship Ave, and this project has an order of conditions in place to repair an existing stone wharf. There were some stones that had to be reset and some cracks that had to be remortared and whatnot. So this has an order of conditions, and that order of conditions is going to expire in a month and a half or so, and the applicant's requesting an extension because they still have some minor work left to do that hasn't been completed, and so they're asking for an extension, which I would recommend. They had requested 3 years. Obviously, it's up to the board to decide what level of extension you wish to grant. So that's the nature of what's in front of us at this point.
What do we normally do? 1 year? 1 year.
What is the extent of, where are you in the process? You're 50% done, you're 80% done? What?
From the initial project, it was probably 95% done. Since that time, the weather's been affecting it a little bit, so there's a little more work to be done. It's a over 100-year-old pier, and it's not bad for a 100-year-old thing, but it does need some more care.
And I guess this is to you, as they've been compliant all the way.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's been no issues. It's just the order's going to run out and they have some additional
Sure.
work to do.
And the additional new work that you've identified is still within the scope of what we permitted?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Kind of
is-
nice to see someone ask permission.
Is there a special reason for 3 years?
Just to, with a number of no research we've had, it's hard to tell what kind of damage, further damage we can have. You know, we did have a bit more in the last year or so.
Is there anybody that wants to speak for or against this project? I mean, normally we do a one-year extension and we see where we are.
I don't see any reason why you can't do more than a year. It's really difficult to work in those areas. It's cold, it's, wet. You get the tide wrong on a sunny day, doesn't get done. I don't see why we can't do 2 years, or even at least 2 years.
The intent of the 1 year was just to keep track of what was going on in case something has changed drastically. Well, we don't want them continually working on it that's not been permitted. So if something major changes, within a year, we would have a chance to review it.
I think that they seem to be coming forward.
Okay.
And that's my opinion.
Right? What would you like?
I like the 1 year. I
You
like to
like the
keep
1
tabs
year?
on stuff.
For
We
the 1 year.
have
Okay,
enough runaway
then I'll
stuff.
take a motion for 1 year.
So moved.
I have a motion for 1 year,
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You got yourself a year. We'll see you back.
If you have a problem, if you foresee a problem,
Just come back to us.
reapply for another one, that's all. But
Mhm.
we usually, I've been here 20 years, and I've never seen more than 1 year.
At a time. You want your
We've had
pictures
2
back?
years.
No, you can have them.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a 1 year extension on that.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Next one is enforcement orders. Stephen McDonough, 24 Highland Bay. Oh, the tree cutter. I took pictures. Okay. Yeah, Mr. Burchett will talk to us about this.
Yeah, this site is at 24 Highland Bay Drive in the Weeannick Shores area, and there was some work done there involving tree cutting along the edge of the coastal bank and in the buffer zone to the coastal bank. I met there with the owner, Mr. McDonough, and he recently purchased the property and ended up doing some tree cutting work without coming forth to the commission. And so that's the reason why we're here discussing this at this point. He did state that if the commission desired for him to replant some trees there, that, he obviously would do that, but some of these were significantly large trees, which obviously you're not going to replant those. So anyway, that's the nature of what the issue was, and Mr. McDonough is here tonight to discuss this with the commission.
No, I don't think so. I'm just telling Kenny that when we went to the site, there were two even larger ones that were cut down further away from the water. I noticed the one closer to the house, it was pretty hollowed, so you probably, if you had just asked Mr. Burchett, come take a look at my sick tree, he would have said, go ahead and cut it.
Yes, no, he was
very gracious when he came out. Obviously, I get some bad advice. The house is brand new. I listened to people that obviously didn't know.
Well, they probably got away with it, thinking you could get away with it.
And he tried to explain the laws. He did a good job at that. I took the liberty of reading the MGL 13340, and there's no doubt that there's a reason behind it. And I can't say anything except that if I had read it, I wouldn't have done it.
Are you planning to remove the stumps?
Mr. Bichette said that I should not, so
Want to talk to I'm sorry, I jumped in there. I was.
No, that's okay.
Go on, your turn.
Yeah, no, I mean, as we discussed, tearing the stumps out would really disturb that area because they are large stumps. And he did discuss potentially wanting to do some minor work to stairs and things of that nature. So I suggested that if he had some other work that would need to be done, that he should file a request for determination, which we might want to require anyway, just to require some replantings to be done in the areas where vegetation was cut. So that's what I would recommend.
I'll work with you. We'll do whatever we have to do to make it right. Obviously, it's not going to be right, but make it the way it was supposed to be, I guess.
Questions?
Fines?
I think so. Questions, and over there?
No.
Kenny, you normally do the fines? $300 for doing the work without approval?
Yep, without a permit.
And leave the stumps and come back with us with an RDA if you want to do any more work in the site.
Okay, so when I want to do the work, I'll get in touch with, okay.
Yeah, and then we'll go over the.
So I don't have a time frame by you guys, but I will do what I have to do.
That's right. So when you decide what you want to do, work with Mr. Bichette, we can get a plan, then you come back before us and we'll discuss your project.
Okay, that 130, 140 has recommendations. I'll just go off of that. Has recommendations for what grows in those areas?
You might not find that information within that particular language, because that's basically the law, which describes, you know, what the law is and what the jurisdiction is, but it
There are
doesn't.
some plants that define those areas.
That's
in
right.
the law.
That's right. They talk about certain plants that exist in wetlands. Some of where you might be replanting isn't specifically in the wetland, though, so that's why we should just talk about it, and we'll come up with something that's appropriate.
So nothing gets done on the site until,
I learned a lesson.
can I have a motion from the board, please?
Yeah, so move
We have a motion to, what's the words I want? Issue-
issue a $300 fine
Fine,
for doing the work
without,
and without a permit, and for David, or for him to file an RDA on his future plans.
that's the motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained?
How do I pay?
You'll see, you can give a check made payable to the town of Wareham to Mr. Bichette. Are you available to come into the office Thursday or Monday or next week? We're closed, office is closed on Friday.
Okay.
I'll be sending you something in the mail, so once you get that, then
Just return it.
you can come.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'm not asking for a check now. No, just wait for the documents to come in from Dave, and then you can just follow up with that. Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Oh, Ken. I was hoping not to see you again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, here I am.
Joe would be disappointed to have you back here, you know that.
He was the most privy to the problems, unfortunately. But
All right. Dave, it's your turn.
Okay, so this site is 35 East Boulevard. Mr. Keegan's been in front of us previously for some other violations, and then he did file a notice of intent to reconstruct or correctly construct the seawall at the property, which an order of conditions was given. And then most recently, there's been some other activities that have gone on there that were not in compliance with the order of conditions that was issued, specifically placing a hot tub pad in a hot tub, and also constructing a stone or block fire pit within 30 feet of the coastal bank. So there's those issues specifically that are newer. There's also some other issues relative to the planting of the marsh grass area that really hasn't been done, or I haven't seen that it's been done. Maybe you can elaborate on that. So that's still an outstanding matter, which was, again, sort of a previous violation there. And the seawall itself hasn't been done. I mean, that's a bigger project, and you may just not be ready to do that project, and that's okay.
The state, I'm still waiting on the Chapter 91.
Oh, you still haven't gotten that yet?
No.
Okay.
They've been by there a few times, but they're just,
Okay, I didn't realize you didn't have the Chapter 91 yet.
and the engineering cost 12 grand, so
Yeah. And there, I know also the building inspectors contacted you about building permits for certain things that you didn't get building permits for yet, so that still needs to happen as well. There's also a stairway that's been put in. There was always a set of stairs on the house closest to the boat ramp, if you will. But then there's another set of stairs now that was put in where there really wasn't a set of stairs before that drops right onto the beach. Those really need to be removed. There was a little set of stone stairs around the back side of that other house, which is fine, but you can't just throw in those other stairs and, so that's another issue. So this is why Mr. Keegan is here, and I did send out a $300 fine with the enforcement order, so that's already been done. But he's been asked to come in to explain and bring us up to speed on where things are at.
Your turn.
Thank you, David. I guess I'll start off with the stairs, because that's where you left off. So the stairs, if you're facing at the property, there's two homes. There's a two-floor home, which is 35A, and there's a one-floor home, which is 35B. To the left of 35B, there's always been a set of stairs. There's actually, in that seawall that was licensed back in the early 1900s, there's actually a removable, they have bolts where the stairs clip onto it. Historically, there was also a set of stairs in between the two houses on the other seawall, which is in between 35A and 35B, but they're destroyed. When Mr. Cabellas renovated the properties, he removed one of the decks because they were termite infested. I've actually become friends with Len and Scott Souza because of this project, mostly because, and I'm stuttering because I'm choosing my words, a concerned citizen in the area that I have now a court-ordered restraining order on has resorted to calling every departments that I've never even heard of to bother. So, and to stay on subject though, both stairs are removable. They're not permanent structures. They have handles on them, and I do plan on removing them. They're not permanent. They may look permanent, but if you just lift up, there's no hardware, there's no bolts. They just simply, there's old big rusty knob things that are like sticking out of the seawall that they just drop on. I just kind of haul it out a piece of metal and clip them on. To address the building inspector, I mean, most all my projects are permitted. Any issues that are confused are because of the house was vacant for 25 years. I think somewhere between two developers, between myself and Mr. Cabela's, that maybe a few things slipped through. For example, there is, instead of a window, there's a door, and stuff like that. I have improved the houses since purchasing them, but in the eyes of the Conservation Commission, everything has been permitted. The fire pit is built in front of 35A, and it's a loose stone, some extra blocks that I had that I threw together, because that's, probably not going to be able to stay when I do the seawall. The seawall construction has been delayed for 2 reasons. All my funds went into the 12 meetings that I came here, the engineering, and the fact that I just don't have my license yet. So that is on the top of the, in my lawn area, so it would technically be within the buffer zone, but my entire property is within this buffer zone. Technically, the coastal bank on my property is 25 feet from my wall. So where I lay my head down on my pillow, underneath my head is ocean during moon tide. I'd also like to add that when I came here before, I was very timid, I was very pulled back because I didn't know the facts. After living there for a while, I've really learned a lot about that beach. And that grass was not native. There is no way that grass was native. And there was no eelgrass there either. I know that there's a claim from a concerned citizen of that. I know how the grass got there. My neighbor told me he planted it, and there's been a lot of movement. Earlier in the season, I think it was actually really, how was that far long ago? I think it was because it was still cold. I think it was either in February or March. If you remember, I sent you an email. I had some plants that I got from, I linked it into another, I do wetland replications. So in one of my projects that I had in New Hampshire, I snuck in the order for my house. I put them in and some things survived, but the tide goes up in front of my house during moon tide. There's 2 feet of water there, and with the constant boats, and now that I have the cameras on it, you can see the entire sandbar move and move around. Anything that I put in there, I think I can't quote, I didn't do my research before coming here. I just came with myself, but I put in a lot of plants, a lot, and they float away. So then I try to get stones, and I raked stones, and I actually sent you an email. I said, hey, Dave, I'm raking the beach. I'm sure you're going to get a call, because my neighbor doesn't like when I rake the beach, and I pulled all the stones up against the grasses that I planted, and to try to hold them down. But there's too much play. It's not going to stay. I mean, there is plants there now. When you go there, it looks as it should, in my opinion.
Well, I think as far as that restoration area goes, you may need to get somebody who does that type of work. I mean, this is not something that you do in a coastal area. And so I think part of why things haven't worked, or, haven't worked to the extent that they need to, is because you need to get somebody that's a professional that does
Right. I mean, I
coastal
understand.
wetland restoration.
Maybe I'm not smart enough for the job, is what you're trying to say. But
It's not that you're not smart enough.
I understand.
It's you're not experienced enough in that arena.
I guess I didn't bring my degree in. But, and I'm not trying to argue. I do feel like a victim here, because I mean, whether you're a chess piece or not, I don't quite fully understand the extent of what the Conservation Commission is trying to do.
Trying to restore the marsh grass that existed.
The hot tub isn't even wired. I just placed it there because I can't afford the electrician to actually place it. So technically, the ticket that was written for a tub that isn't a permanent structure. So, and then the fire pit, which my neighbor, when you went there to look at it, has the same exact fire pit in the same exact distance from the coastal bank. Excuse me if I feel targeted.
Well, the difference is you have an order of conditions that says that there's no further work beyond what was permitted within the 30-foot zone.
I understand. I respect
And
that.
so now that you've
I
done.
apologize for my tone. I'm not trying.
Yeah. I'm just explaining you have that order. Now, what your neighbor has or doesn't have, or when it was there, that's not something I'm familiar with. I'd have to look into that. But I'm only focusing on this particular site because we do know what was there and what wasn't there, and we know what your order of conditions says and doesn't say. So,
Well, I've tried to, even before I even started the construction on the seawall, because I don't actually have the Chapter 91 license, in good faith, I tried to install the grasses. And I sent you the pictures. I didn't bring them in, but there's no doubt, I tried to make good even before starting my construction. I've tried to be compliable, as Mr. Larson said during one of the previous cases or hearings. But it feels like I feel like a criminal. Every single week, I have some email or some person coming to my house, and I feel as if I'm complying. I mean, I'm also not a normal homeowner. I do this for a living. I sit in front of conservation commissions across the state, and even in New Hampshire. I just said I did a wetland notification in Stratham, New Hampshire. And I had to sit in front of that board, and I had to go through everything and follow everything. I'm not trying to break any bylaws, and I understand the bylaws are there for a reason. And I understand I'm coming a little more aggressive than I have in the past, but I'm trying to put something to rest and make the board understand where I'm coming from and what my intentions are, and I'm trying to be fair and honest. And, sorry.
It's just too bad. I can remember that beach grass going all the way up to the side of the house.
It did.
All the way up to the side of the house was nothing but, it wasn't eelgrass. Eelgrass is under the water, but this was beach grass.
this was marsh grass
Marsh
is what it
grass.
was.
Right.
Yeah.
And it constantly changed. I've gathered pictures over the last 20 years of the property, actually some from Mr. Leggett, who helped me compile the pictures because he's, as you know, he was an avid photographer. But as Mr. Pichette said earlier, the grasses move. They come, they go, they reside, especially when you have a brand new boat ramp that changed the hydraulic pressures in that area. If you watch that cove during a moon tide, tonight, go there and just watch. I invite you, sit on my deck. I won't be home. Just sit there and watch the sand. You can literally see the stuff move. The way that it has to be a certain wind, but it happens more often when it's colder, and you can literally see it. I'm just, my back's up against the wall. I don't know what to do from here. I'm being honest.
Well, no further expansion of decks, patios, walkways, parking areas, or buildings shall be allowed within the 30-foot. So it was the fire pit. It was the hot tub pad, right? Hot tub pad?
Well, there was no pad. It's just sitting on, there was no disturbance of the soil. It's just
Sitting on the
put it down.
soil?
Yeah, the soil's pretty level.
The other thing too is where that whole area is that was supposed to be revegetated. You have artificial grass there, the stuff that you find on like a miniature golf course. That's not actual stabilizing material. You need to get actual vegetation.
Nothing grows there with the salt breeze. I mean, if you want, I can plant grass and it'll be a mud pie. And it'll wash all the silt into the
Well, it won't if you
resource.
have hay bales across the back, which is what's supposed to be there until it becomes stabilized. So
It is most definitely stabilized. And again, my house predates a lot of these bylaws.
but none of that matters at
But
this
what I'm
point.
saying is I purchased a property that is grandfathered into the bylaws.
It's not
and
grandfathered.
I understand
There's
you
no
say I bought a
grandfathering.
restrictive
Okay.
house.
Yeah, there's
I
no
just-
grandfathering of
Folks.
the activities.
I should just sell my house then, Dave.
At this particular point, please, Ken, nothing more.
I apologize.
Nothing
there's-
more.
there's-
Acts up on the
Just, I
board.
mean,
There's nothing more I can
think
do.
that-
I'm
I
done.
think we can try to put in, somehow get some grass, marsh grass back. I know as you plant it, it gets washed away, so maybe, I don't know, we haven't given the root system a chance to get established before the tide changes and the water flows up and washes it all away, but I don't know how to replenish the marsh grass.
Who does that?
But I mean, even last night, I mean, this last really windy storm, I saw, and I because it's so recent, I can probably even pull the footage, and I'll show you. The sandbar pushed in 3 feet on that grass, and I'm not exaggerating. Like, there was a sand, you know how the sandbar goes in front of the grass, pushed in 3 feet. If that happens 2 more times, Mr. Pichette's gonna ask me to put all that grass in again because I own the property. Now, I still, to this day, have said I did not remove that grass. So I'm being ordered to replace grass that is doing its natural thing.
All right,
I think if I could just list or say several things that I think need to be addressed by the board, okay?
okay,
So,
one at a time.
yes. Part of the plan that was approved and the discussion that was had by this board and conditioned was that the disturbed grass had to be replanted. Now, if that needs to be done by someone who...
It was done.
Right, I
And
get
done.
that you, I'm not saying that you didn't attempt to do it, because we talked about it, and I remember
For
that.
the record.
I'm just saying that for certain arenas, there is a certain level of expertise that needs to be employed to get something like that to become established.
And is that
it's
an
not
order because I
something-
stripped the
it's-
grass?
it's-
I'm
it's-
sorry to interrupt, but is that an order because I stripped the grass? And if that's an order that I violated, I haven't started construction yet. So, I mean, when I start the construction, if you guys want me to throw more plants in, I probably have a resource for that. Like I said, it's my career.
No, I'm talking about the marsh grass.
The
at
marsh
this
grass in
point,
front
yeah.
of 35, in front of 35B, I understand. And if you look there now, there are plants there. It's not straight sand. There are, I'm not an oceanic expert, whatever that is, I'm sorry. But I don't know what's there, but there is vegetation there. It's not completely stripped, as the word that has been used.
So, again, if you look at the order of conditions, the conditions specifically stated that the planting shall be done during the appropriate time of the year and shall be done during the next seasonal growing opportunity, okay? So you had basically all summer in fall and nothing was established. Now,
I mean, you said you planted it and they washed away?
There's pictures to Mr. Burchett to show it. There's about 100, maybe more. The whole front of the house was all grass.
So it was at least attempted, it just
And
didn't
then I sent emails, I think a week or two later, saying I'm losing a few. I'm gonna rig some rocks onto them to hold them. I paid for them. So of course I don't want them to float away. Today, there's some stuff out there. I haven't looked at it
Some
recently.
of them held.
Some of them held, yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
okay, so that's that issue. The other issue is the hot tub and the fire pit need to be removed as far as I'm concerned because they're not in compliance with the order.
Okay, wait a minute, the hot tub is just sitting on the grass?
Yep,
Just a pile.
sitting on the fake
Okay.
grass.
There's nothing,
There's no cement with it, no bottom thing. It's just a pile of bricks making a hot.
No, we're talking
No,
about the
no,
hot
the
tub.
hot tub's just a
Oh, I meant-
regular.
I meant fire pit.
We're not there yet. We're starting with the hot tub.
So that should be, if it's just sitting there, picked up and removed and taken off the site.
I mean, even to the point, obviously, if I have a hot tub sitting there that I want to install, I bring up that the bylaws give discretion to a board for special properties that are not like the average properties that are, in my vocabulary, grandfathered because they are already existing. My house is 30 feet into the resource, not the buffer zone. So there's not much land above the actual coastal seashore that I have to work with.
That's
But
right.
I'm asking the board for permission that I may use that area for a hot tub
But you
for my
can't.
house.
That's the whole premise of what this
I'm asking
was-
for discretion. I will submit a plan. I can do that myself if you'd like. And I would ask for that for me. And that would, for me. The fire pit is a stone fire pit. It's loosely stacked and the caps are glued on for obvious safety. And it's pretty far from the resource. It's nicely installed. It's not like it's on the beach. It's far away from any kind of natural resource at all. And I would love for me to have that as well. Because when if I remember properly, one of the neighbors up here before complained that I had fires on the beach. And you asked me, actually verbatim, Mr. Burchett, you said, well, why can't you just have the fires up on the grass area? I went and I built a fire pit for my said fires on the grass area. So I guess if I have to submit that plan, but typically underneath building codes, plans don't show structures underneath 3 feet. This fire pit is about 12 inches, 14 inches above the ground. I mean, I can put that on the plan, but it's typically not something that you have on a plan view plan, but I can certainly do that.
These are just features that shouldn't be allowed. They're specifically stated not to be allowed within the 30-foot.
My whole house wouldn't be allowed. I must add that. My house wouldn't be allowed, and I don't have much land there to work with. And if I invite all of you to my house, as I always have, to look, it's a very unique house that really, really demands discretion to have a fair and appropriate decision made on it. It's not new development. The deed on the house is from the early 1800s. Now, would that house not be able to be built today? Absolutely not. It would be bluffs. It would be public bluffs. Nowhere on that property is not anywhere. It's a very unique property.
Right, and there's tons of houses in town that have the same exact circumstances, and even
That
if
has a
these
fire
places come in and say they want to build a new thing in that 30-foot, this commission has been saying no. So that's just the nature of things
I
with
understand.
regards to the 30-foot. And then there are some outstanding issues with building permits that have not been addressed. And I'm bringing it up just to make it clear that these things do need to be addressed with the building inspector.
Right. And I've been in contact thoroughly with them. And
Scope. The other thing you had was the set of stairs. You're saying the set of stairs that are there now are movable?
very removable. There's
Right,
no
but
bolts,
again,
no fasteners.
They weren't on the plan that was approved.
How do you put a removable fixture on a plan? It's like me putting out a cooler, and then you want the cooler on the plan. It's a movable structure.
No, that's not what it is. And if
If
we
we had
had,
known you were planning to put the temporary stairs into the little slots that were there, we would have permitted it. But you didn't tell us that you were planning to use the little pigs to put in pigs, holes.
well, again, something like that wouldn't have been permitted because there was already 2 sets of stairs there. There was no need for another set of stairs that just got plunked onto the beach. Whether they're removable or not, people can't just go putting in what they think is okay because they want it.
Right. I mean, I understand that, and it sounds like you're really personally against this project. I understand, Mr. Bichette, but again, these stairs aren't just flunked onto the beach. They are literally 3 feet from my house, and they're a main egress to my house. And they were there pre-existing. You can find pictures all the way back. Now, I understand that the house, Mr. Cabellas, didn't fully fix every single thing when he went to sell it. He fixed a certain amount of things, and what was too rotten to fix, I got with, and I understood what I was buying. I didn't understand how many hoops I had to jump through and personal vendettas I had to put up with on this project. And I hate to use this, but I'm sorry if I feel like a victim to personal opinion. I guess I have nothing left to say. The board has the discretion, and I ask you, please, just work with me. I've been more than compliant. At least I feel like it. And if you guys have any orders, please. I'm not unreasonable. I'm not trying to do anything negative. And I'm not trying to build anything. I understand that the definition of build can be changed to whatever anyone wants to say, but I'm not constructing any new projects. The property, in my mind, is done. It is complete. And I should shut up. I'm all done. I'm just rambling.
Comments from the board. I will start with you.
I don't even know where to begin, but as far as the house goes, I mean, it's the same everywhere. If you, I had a friend who bought a historic building.
Mike,
I had a friend who bought a historic building. I mean, they tell him what color he can paint it. It's just.
It is what it is.
Sorry, he could have bought something out in the woods and not had those issues. That's irrelevant.
not my
The laws
point,
are what
but-
they are, and as was sort of noted before, we see too much of you.
It's not on
personal.
accident. I mean, I'm sure Mr. Bichette can attest to the constant phone calls that he must get from somebody, because I mean, I've been alerted by other people in this town hall that have told me that they get probably 6 to 7 calls a day from concerned citizens.
And unfortunately, here you've run into a 30-foot no-touch zone, and even though you happen to live in part of that, which was, somehow permitted previously, or maybe the beach was 20 feet farther out.
Right. Well, the
when
mean
house
low,
was built,
mean
I
low
don't
tide
know.
has got to be 75 feet, maybe even 100 feet from anywhere where we're talking. Now, the coastal seashore is where we're talking about, the sea bank. Now, that's basically just the top of my seawall. So many houses, even down at 33 East Boulevard, let's say you guys just permitted that work, that seawall is inches from his deck. Now, I am further back from the resource. Now, mean low tide is a long way away. Even mean high tide is a long way away. I'm not in the resource or in my mind. Now, I understand that we calculate it from the top of the sea bank, coastal bank. But I just feel like this property is so unique that it demands discretion to make, in my mind, the proper decision.
Kenny,
I'm not saying anything yet.
Mary,
I don't know, it's very confusing.
Melissa,
Well,
lean forward.
I know how difficult it is to plant things, and I've seen them in Plymouth where they've had people come in and plant grasses, and some of them last and some of them don't. I sort of feel like a little caught between a rock and a hard place, at this point, and I'm sure you do too, at this point. I don't know, David.
Okay. There's no place on your property that you haven't already,
Well,
I mean,
my best
you're
effort
lucky
is
to
to
ha-
stay out of here.
you're lucky to have the two parking areas,
I'm
which
very
were
lucky for
permitted
everything. Yeah.
before we put in our 30-foot no-work zone, right? I mean, you asked that to be modified. and
I'm not
we-
grateful.
We said to
I'm
you,
not ungrateful, sorry.
build to what's permitted, because more than likely you wouldn't get if you did any change. So I know that that's really the only hard piece of land you have there, other than your walkways. Everything else is grassed.
Yeah, and
Or a deck.
It's
Yeah, that's the nature of it. It's a limited site like some are, and when you have a limited site, you have to live within what the limitations are. That's just the way it is.
I feel like I made a decent compromise that would adhere to the bylaws' discretion, and I feel like what I have done has been tastefully done and thoughtfully done with the conservation of the resource in mind. I mean, I wouldn't do anything against that would hurt it. You know, when I'm here making an argument because I honestly believe that what I've done is permittable, and the reason for that is because there's no negative attributes from what I'm doing to the resource.
The hot tub is sitting on the grass, correct? There was no construction done
No,
for the
well, the
hot
area
tub.
wasn't a grass area, it was a seashelled area, so it's sitting on a seashell, yes.
So no construction was done for the placement of the hot tub?
No,
It's right
no
there.
more than just raking the seashells, just, you know what I mean, it was already
But
level.
the fire pit required some digging. Bear with me for a second. You had to disturb some grass in order to get the fire pit in there, right?
I suppose, in a way, yes, you could
But you
say.
didn't disturb grass to put the hot tub there.
No.
Well, with the exception of it not being able to grow under a hot tub. I'm not
Well, if
Well, it's a
there's
seashell
no grass
area.
underneath it, but nothing but seashells, it's like a sand or, like that other guy that he put a pad over his sand, which means his hot tub had to be removed because the pad had to be, never mind. That's another hearing. All right.
But the area is supposed to be seagrass, is it not?
No, no.
Not
The
this
hot
side.
tub is
Okay.
up.
It's not, it's, the area was a seashell area, and that fit the plan. Seashells, or let's call it gravel, the entire area around the house will not permit grass.
No,
that's
and they
not
put,
true
they
at
put a
all.
My
lot of
turf review
gravel.
says otherwise.
They put in a
So-
lot of gravel because of the runoff and the erosion.
Yes, you cannot grow grass there. If you do, it's gonna be very, very hard to maintain and very hard to grow.
Okay.
So it was gravel, and there's
Ken,
a tub
excuse
sitting
me,
on top of the gravel
excuse
right
me a
now.
sec. Mr. Clemmy, we're almost done. Are you going to wait, or are you going home?
I don't know yet.
Okay. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I put my happy face on. I just don't like
Well-
being grumpy.
All right, I'll start. I'd like to see the fire pit removed, but the hot tub can stay. You've attempted to do the marsh grass. Let's take a look at the spring see if you can do some more, see how much of that marsh grass holds up over the winter.
Can that be looked at by someone who actually knows how to plant marsh grass?
Well,
I mean,
it
there
should,
there
yeah.
are, I mean, like, you know, I can grow a tomato, but I pretty much screw up an orchid, you know what I mean? So being able to do one thing doesn't, I mean, marsh grass is reasonably
Do you
specific. and
plant
it's-
marsh grass for other clients?
Not in an application on a beach, but yes, I can fully plant any kind of, I mean, I literally
do
went to
you
college for this,
do-
and I get paid
Do
$2
you
million
do
projects.
plantings in a tidal area?
Yes, I can certainly handle this project.
She didn't ask if you could handle it. She asked, do you do that as part of your job?
It's not something that I offer all the time, but
Do you
yes,
have-
Have you ever
but I
done it
have,
before
yes.
this site? Have you ever done it before this site?
In a tidal zone?
No,
Okay.
not like in that application.
Okay.
But,
My point
but,
is just-
not me personally, but the enterprise that I work with, yes. I certainly know what I'm doing.
But you know somebody that
Yes,
has done,
Well, if I were to purchase these plants anyways, these plants aren't bought at Home Depot. They have to be bought from a specialty store. They're bought from New England wetlands specialists, which you have to have a wetland account from, which means that you can't just walk in there and buy from them. You actually have to be a contractor with them. And it's not easy to be a contractor with them. And
yeah, this cost you a lot of money and they didn't stay.
everything's cost me a ton of
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
I've been in this room a ton of times. That costs a lot of money. Like, I don't know. I
just trying-
look silly. I got cameras on me.
I'm trying to get a feel for what I'm hearing or not hearing from the board. I mean, the marsh grass, you have to have another attempt at it, and if that means
I'll
bringing
try
in
it.
somebody more, who has done more plantings in tidal waters, then that's gonna have to happen.
I understand.
The fire pit, to me, should be removed and the grass area reinstated. To me, I have no problem with a hot tub staying on the gravelled area.
Even though it conflicts with the conditions.
It's a temporary, it's not a permanent structure.
Yeah, but, okay.
Can
that's-
opinions be made? I feel like this is
This is my feel
Board of
for it.
Dave.
And then, the stairs would have to be removed. That's my take on the, 4 items that, Mr. Bichette spoke to about. Anybody have anything else? Or any
wondering whether-
different in that?
Do you empty the hot tub?
I've never used it before. It's just sitting, I can't, it's not even
Well,
wired
my
on.
point is it's full of water that actually can't be emptied into
The saltwater tank.
where it, you can't empty it where it sits, so what do you do with the water?
What did you plan, if you were using the hot tub, how did you plan to empty the water, the chlorinated water?
I could certainly pump it out. I do have a water truck. I mean, it's not.
Okay, I mean, it's that type of thing that,
I mean, I'm not gonna dump it in. I mean, I get the conservation agent called when I rake the beach. If I go like this, the police are there. I wouldn't start dumping chlorine into a resource.
I think what's being said is that the hot tub itself sitting on gravel is fine. It's the discharge of the water at the end of the season that would be a concern of this commission.
Right. I mean, just like, I have a truck with a transfer tank. I would never, ever work with that or empty that into the resource. I feel like that's just moral responsibility on anyone that lives in a
It is ours
resource.
to bring it up and thus get it written down
And I agree.
somehow.
No, it was a damn good question. I didn't suspect that coming.
Well, I do think we have to try again with the grass.
I'm
I think
in.
I think you have people that you know that can maybe work with you on this.
I'm not opposed to it. And
Yeah,
I understand that you guys have been,
I'll bet there's free resources for that. I'm not sure who to call, but
I would start with probably Buzzards Bay Coalition.
that was gonna be my
where
first
they are
suggestion.
so concerned about the shoreline
They-
and pollution.
And if they won't actually help you, they'll know who will. you know.
Yeah, of course, because
You know,
they work, yeah. I mean,
There'll be a person somewhere who says, yeah, I'm happy to go down and lay out all the tricks.
I understand.
Here's how this is most successful. Because it's not 100% successful for anybody. You know, we go through this, so the last time we were here, we had some grass planting off one of the islands. And some had been successful, and then now they're coming back, next year, and they're gonna do.
A little
they're
bit
gonna
at a
do
time.
What the parts that weren't successful, and over time, they'll eventually stop their erosion issues.
Those people
But
that,
every time you do that, you learn something. So there's people out there who are happy to tell you what they learned, because they're not
agree.
in that for the money, they're in it to save.
To save the bay.
What they're interested in.
No pun intended, but,
So
Yeah.
it would seem to me that you could easily pick up some free, very good advice, and then probably perform the work on your own.
I agree, Mr. Larson, thank you.
in addition, you have the people you buy the plants from. I'm sure they have some people who might be able to work with you.
I agree, thank you.
I don't know. I think she raises marsh grass.
Mary?
Stairs gotta go too, by the way. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Yeah,
How
I
many-
did. I said the stairs go, the fire pit goes, the hot tub can stay, and retry planting the grass. Those were my 4 comments.
Sandy, I have a question. How many staircases are there? 3, counting the
There are
one that?
2 existing stairs to the beach from the 2 homes, right? 2.
Well, there's 2 stairs that have been constructed, and then there's a stone little stairway that was there.
Without this, when he first came before us, and he came to us, were there 2 sets of stairs?
There was one wooden set that came down from the seawall, and
Yep.
then there was
The
a stone set that
stone
was
set.
built into the existing
there
stone
was a rock-
seawall.
So there were 2 that
There was
existed.
3 that Mr. Cabela's got rid of. The access in between the 2 homes, to refresh everybody's memory, if you look at the 2 homes, the set of stairs that Mr. Burchett is talking about is the set of stairs from the middle of the home to the beach.
I don't remember one being there when we talked about putting in a deck.
Well, I took it out.
We got the deck issue, yes.
Yeah, so this goes from the deck to the beach. This is the access for 35, because there are 2 homes.
Okay, was
So
that on the original
35A
plan?
doesn't have access without that said removable staircase.
I said there.
It is removable.
So, on the original plans that you gave us, November 21st, 2018, there were no steps between the 2 homes.
Well, I didn't want to, they weren't permanent. From what I was advised is if they weren't permanent, like they just sit there kind of like a ladder, that I wouldn't have to put them on as long as they
It's a
weren't
walk
permanent.
to both of the 2 steps on either side of the house. The third one was in the middle of the 2 homes, which would be easily accessible off of the deck, correct?
Right, and that's the main entrance of the home. And then there's, I mean, naturally, why wouldn't they have a step there? It's probably a 7-foot drop, at least 7 feet.
Well, that's why there's a set of stairs over here, because you just walk around over
It's
here.
a separate
and go
house.
down there.
There's 2 different houses, technically, 2 different lots. So
And you
Set
have,
of stairs
yep.
here, and
I
there's
just
a set
happen to
of
own 2
stairs there.
houses side by
So
side.
what I'm hearing, Mary, remove, if I'm hearing this correctly from everybody, remove the temporary set of steps that you put in there. The hot tub stays with no water discharged into the bay. Remove the fire pit.
I mean,
Replant the marsh grasses when you get when you get some more information regarding how to make it happen. That's what I'm hearing. Mary?
No, that would be right.
Kenny?
I don't know.
Is there no hope for the fire pit? Or
Yeah.
the stairs are pretty important. I mean, without the stairs, there's really no access.
There's 2 other sets of stairs. This whole
There's 2
thing is
lots.
40
There's
feet
2
wide.
lots. I
And there's a
can't,
set of
it's my
stairs
neighbor.
on-
I live in 35B.
There's a set of
35A is a
stairs on
completely
each
separate
lot.
house.
Wait.
Look at this plan. There's a
There-
set of stairs on each lot. Why do you need a 3rd set? Makes no sense.
I understand. I don't want to argue with you.
I mean, why not have 10 sets of stairs?
Oh, that's just irrational. But
Well,
my point is that at one point, there was existing stairs there. They are removable. If you look at the house, I invite everybody to take a look at it.
were the temporary ones. All right. We're going to go back and forth, and come on, I need somebody.
Well, there's no This
No
is not,
argument here, the stairs go
I
away.
feel like if the stairs can stay, I'll get rid of the fire pit, even though I really don't want to. I feel like it's stacked up stones. It's hard to
But you
believe
dug a
that.
hole. You dug a hole for the fire pit, correct?
Not necessarily.
A few inches, you know, like even,
But
I
you
mean, but if
disturbed-
I dug a hole and then had a fire in there, I mean, people have fires on the beach, that's like, I only recessed it in so it looked nice. I mean, if you want, I can lift it up and put it just on the grass. You guys are giving me discretion, and it's hard for me to bite the hand that's feeding me. But I feel like everything I've done is permittable.
Stone steps.
Yes, those are stone steps. Concrete stone steps.
It's more like a hill, and most people can't get up and down those stone steps. Like anyone that isn't in good shape can't get up that
His
hill.
removable ones went in here.
The stairs provide safe access onto the beach as they're actual stairs that you don't have to embark up a 7-foot slope. The concrete steps in front of 35A, so that's the one near closest to the proposed seawall, those 2 steps are 2 steps onto an embankment, which then you have to go up the hill.
Feet away, the other set.
it's
More than that.
like 20 feet, 25 feet.
But it's
They're
not,
2 different lots too as well.
those steps are not close to any door from the house.
And the concrete steps are on an embankment.
These steps are not close to any, they're close to that door, but not to this house.
So this one's close to this.
Yeah.
So this, if you
The
have
middle
walk-
steps are essential to 35B,
people walk up
my
here, people
house.
walk here,
Yeah, but that's a
correct?
deck. Those are decks.
Existing house?
These are decks.
The houses are very close to each other. They're 2 houses side by side.
Got rid of this.
No. Any change now would require a change to the order of conditions.
Well, I still have construction. I have to be back here regardless when I get my Chapter 91. So any conditions that you impose on me, I have to abide by. And I still say that everything that I've done has been permittable. Now, does it demand discretion? Absolutely. Discretion doesn't mean unpermittable. Discretion means that you look at the actual site and see what it is and use your discretion. I feel there is a lot of room for me to say that everything I've done is permittable, and when I haven't constructed anything, when I do construct it, I will put more seagrass in. I will try for my second attempt.
Okay.
That doesn't seem,
The other alternative is that everything you've done gets undone, including the hot tub, and comes back and be permitted.
I know.
And talked about when you come back with your 91.
right.
I
and
mean, I'm
obviously-
trying to give you the hot tub.
You are, and I appreciate
and
that.
you-
Yeah, you're killing me with the,
The fire pit will be overflowed if there's any type of heavy water coming into that, into that bay.
well, the fire pit is actually, I think it is above 7 and 3. It's 11, I'd say between 7 and 11 feet above sea level.
Well, I'd like to see what happens with a full moon high tide.
Well, at a moon tide, you're at 5 feet elevation. The fire pit actually sits at about 11 feet above seawater. There's no way unless we have a Bob or 38 hurricane, which then all those houses are underwater. I've done it, and I'm pretty close on that.
All right, we're not going anywhere with this.
Nope.
So,
Get rid of the fireplace, get rid of the stairs, keep the hot tub, and plant the grass, another shot at the grass.
that's what I'm
Go
hearing.
along with what you
That's where I
said.
sit.
I'm hearing that.
Yeah.
Say goodbye to the fire pit, keep the hot tub.
I feel like the
replant
stairs are
grasses.
essential
But
to the
stairs
actual
are
function.
also a
You got two
safety
other
issue.
sets.
It's a super safety issue. I mean, if you saw it,
Either way.
if I
Change
show you the
other
picture, I think
stairs.
maybe,
They don't care.
if I show you the picture, it's a 7-foot drop. You need it, and then the other stairs, the stone stairs don't necessarily count. They're not stairs, they're a couple rocks.
I don't care if you have a feature movie. It's not in the order of conditions. And what was in the order of conditions was don't do anything that isn't in the order of conditions.
The stone stairs, I can't see that as an actual set of stairs. So if we're counting that as a set of stairs as an argument, There's no way that those rocks, those two steps to go up an 8-foot elevation, it's not safe.
Then what would happen is you would come before the commission and say, I'd like to do this.
And you would say it's not
put it on a
permittable.
plan. No, you'd put it on the plan, you'd say, I'd like to replace this set of stone stairs that exist because they're not
I would
feasible.
need to disturb a lot of soil to do that, hence why I haven't done it. You're talking
There's
about
an
an
existing
8-foot
set of-
elevation over a
Enough.
10-foot area.
For both of you.
There's an existing set of stairs that was permitted to be rebuilt as part of the wall.
But 2 steps up a 7-foot grade.
This doesn't show 2 steps, it shows 7 or 8 steps.
No, I'm talking about the concrete one is not an adequate set of stairs to access the beach. That's why everybody,
Proper way to go about fixing that.
right, and I'm asking if I ask for a continuance and I come back with a plan showing what I want,
Not on the IDA, was it? Was that set of stairs on?
This is a notice, yeah.
So this
notice
is a
of intent.
refile for that set of stairs. So we don't even need to listen to this.
Yeah, or an amendment. Yeah, you have to have one or the other. You can't
amended
just put
order.
them in.
Yeah.
Just do an amended order, that's
No.
all. Come up with another plan.
Kenny Ford.
Do an amended order, come up with another plan.
And that the
We'll be
stairs
here all
are
night arguing.
temporary, there's no footing on the beach, and it just, they're put in and off from the deck area, and no footing on the beach.
no footing. Well, that's what it is now. It's just, it
I'm
flows.
just telling you
But I have
what
to
you
make a
need to
plan.
do.
I'm
You
just-
need to change your order of conditions and ask for a change for replacement of a set of steps between the 2 houses.
I understand.
Right, so just so the commission is aware, you can't permit that set of stairs there. Okay? You're permitting a structure on the beach. There's an existing set of stairs that's within the stone wall that was proposed to be rebuilt as part of the new seawall.
Okay. The existing, the set of temporary stairs that go in the pegs, do they rest on the sand itself, the bottom rung? So if you were to take the bottom rung off and they don't sit on the stairs, on the sand? So you have, instead of having a step down to the sand, it's,
Did you say did you,
It's possible.
you not just say we don't have the authority to do that?
Yes.
This is not a
Trying to-
discussion.
But I mean,
that
the
I'm
same
going to
set of
sit here.
stairs is on the other
You don't
side.
have the authority.
And
to
it's already
permit
pre-existing.
stairs. That set of stairs has to go,
okay,
period.
But it was pre-existing before, and it mocks exactly what's on the other side of the property, the other side of the house.
So can I ask then, why was on this plan this set of stairs shown, which was there?
Maybe
and
you
why
don't
was-
remember
why-
the meetings. The
I don't
plan
care about
changed
the
10
meetings.
times. We
This-
tried to put it through,
But this
but
is the
it had to
approved
change,
plan.
and then I had a big opposition. And I had a lot of people at my house. They came to my house and they kept telling me, you have to pull it back, pull it back. So I pulled back. I was trying to comply. It was a very aggressive thing coming through here. That's why I don't even like coming in this building.
Why is this here and there's nothing here?
The plan changed a dozen times.
But ultimately, we approved a plan.
And I would like an
I saw a
amendment.
set of stairs over here. There was never a set of plans that showed a
I
set
would
of
like to
stairs.
propose a continuance until I can add it, so we can amend it and add it to the order conditions that will be withheld when I do the seawall and I obtain my Chapter 9-1 license. Because it
And
is a
can-
safety
and
issue.
I'm hearing that even then, the stairs would not be permitted.
The center set of stairs, as was stated 20 times already, need to be removed because they weren't permitted and they weren't on the original plan and they shouldn't be there. I mean, I don't know why we're going around with this 100 times.
It doesn't make sense.
Just make the call and be
Just
done with
move
it.
forward with the
Here's,
plan.
here's where I stand,
Okay,
okay? I would let them walk out of here without a fine by 9 o'clock, but at 9:00 anything. That wasn't permitted, it was put in illegally,
so
and I think
Ken,
there
we're
should be
saying,
something.
remove the set of stairs,
End this.
remove the hot tub, sorry, remove the fire pit, keep the hot tub, do not discharge water into the sewer or to the bay water, and attempt another planting of the marsh grass. That's what I'm hearing.
Move forward with
I
that.
I have
And-
no options, so I appreciate that. I mean, I didn't walk out empty-handed,
Okay.
so thank you.
Move forward with that.
Move to close.
Well,
The
this
hearing.
this isn't even a hearing. This
Oh,
is
I-
just-
we can't even do that, can we?
Discussion.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so, that's it.
All right.
Hey, maybe Robert, but the rules of order I never got.
All right? Anything else you need from us?
Nope, not at this point, if
And
that's what the
honestly-
commission's viewpoint is.
That's it. I'm hearing that from the board.
All right, thank you, everyone, and I apologize my
That's all right.
emotions. Thank you. Thank you.
And it's after 9, folks, and I don't know about you, but I don't think I have anything to talk about on the fines for violations. Can we hold it off to another meeting?
Sure.
Can we hold off the Wareham Congress to another meeting?
Yep.
Is there anything else on here, Mr. Bichette, we need to cover tonight?
No, there isn't.
The fines, the paper that he presented in the fines,
Well, he's already been sent his fines. Can-
He's already been filed.
Mr. Bichette has sent him his fines.
no. What
Oh.
what are you talking about,
This,
fines?
we talked about
Yeah,
coming up
this,
with,
yeah.
I want to hold off for another meeting. I don't
Right.
have any brain cells left.
Yeah, well,
All right, if-
I'm pretty impressed with what he's come up with so
Yeah,
far.
so take a look at it, folks, and see if that's, any comments on the next meeting on the draft for fines for violations. It's a great start, and let's see if there's anything there that we want to include in the coverage, because honestly, I'm going after the contractors as much as I want to go after the homeowners.
Right.
Is there anything else?
Exactly.
My only thought on this.
Yeah, I think the
which I like,
contractor should be
is
held
this
liable.
per,
Contractor
like
should be held
RDA
liable.
or per
Yeah.
violation within the RDA? So like him.
I don't
Okay.
care if it's a notice of intent or an RDA
right.
or a certification of
what-
compliance.
Okay, so like, there were 4 issues here tonight. Were they each individually able to be fined, or is it one fine for the collective?
I would
That's,
tended
that's,
to be,
that's up to the board's discretion, because different violations on one property can be given separate fines.
Okay, so I didn't know, and I just,
oh,
you know,
Yeah.
okay.
something to think about.
I think
is
it's
what I'm
Penny
saying.
that the contractors, I think you're a little low on the commercial contractor first
Well,
offense.
we can take a look
Right.
at it, come back with comments on the
The draft, so-
November 6th
And
meeting.
a great draft.
Yeah.
Well done.
You did good.
And I'm sure Mary would like to go home too, so if someone can say the magic words, if there's nothing else, Mr. Bichette?
Move to
Motion to
close.
adjourn.
Question?
Move to
No,
adjourn.
Jeff,
I mean, that need to be done during the meeting or after the meeting?
No, after, so,
after the meeting?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Move to close the
I
meeting.
have a motion to adjourn, I heard a second, and all in favor say aye. Thank you, Mr. White,
Shut it off.
9:02.
Shut it